could talk about. So yesterday I filmed the endings video where I talk a lot about when things are ending, and the maintenance guy ended up knocking on my door right at the end of that video to like fix something in my apartment. And there was something I really wanted to talk about that I didn't end up speaking about in that video. So I thought today could be like endings part two. Um, and so what I wanted to talk about is like when we're going through endings and what determines whether an ending is bitter or sweet is oftentimes the love and appreciation we poured into something, whether that's a person, a career, something we spent on our time on. What determines whether something coming to an end is something that feels like enjoyable or feels like it was worth our time to go through that experience, or whether we feel rather bitter when something ends, oftentimes is determined by, is the thing I poured my love into something that gave it back to me in some way, shape, or form, right? If it was a person, did the love and appreciation I showed this person, were they equally or doing their best to show it back to me, even if it looked a little different in how they showed love for me? Did I feel like it was worth the journey to go along with this person? And was the heartbreak worth it? Worth the experience I had, right? Was the heartbreak and grief I'm now feeling for losing this person in my life, were they someone that was worth feeling heartbreak and grief over? And when we're thinking about how we're investing our time, whether when something ends, whether it's a relationship, something or a passion we had or a career we had, was was all the time I spent with this person, with this career, with this passion, was it worth it? And that determines what kind of experience you have when something comes to an end. Because if we invest our time in something that was not worth it and something we should have said no to at the get-go, but we're too scared to say no, or thought we were judging that experience or person and that we couldn't say no, or that when I or that like or just like the awe of like someone else liking us or being interested in enough was enough for them to get a yes from us. Even if it was a job, a company was interested in me, and so I gave them a yes without really thinking, is this a company that is actually going to appreciate and value my time, or do they just see me as another number of an employee? Right? Is all the love I'm going to pour, all the time, all the attention I'm going to pour into this job going to be worth my time when I leave this job? And right, you hear people who are bitter about who are bitter about like a company closing down, or who are bitter about losing their job. And oftentimes they are bitter. Maybe it's not all the time, but oftentimes they are bitter because they felt like they poured their heart into this job. They gave this job all they had, and the company at the end of the day was just worried about making money and didn't care about its employees. Or if we're in a relationship, the other person on the other side maybe didn't appreciate us or love us as much as we love them. And then when the relationship ends, they move on quickly. They find a new a new partner the next week, and probably part of that is them having a hard time being alone. And part of it is they might not have been giving you their full heart or giving you as much of their heart as you were giving them. And that makes us feel bitter because we all want to feel that our time is valuable and that the love and attention we poured something, it was it grew something beautiful rather than grew something that was only half full. Like if there's two people pouring love into a cup, and you at the end of the relationship you go to the drink the cup, and all that was there was the love you had poured in that cup, and not a lot of love was poured in by the other person, and you go, I could have spent my time in a relationship that appreciated me more. I could have spent my time with someone who actually would have really loved and valued me. And instead, I spent years with this person who didn't really give that much of a crap about me. And so when we're thinking about starting something, can we be aware of, is this is this actually, when I lose this at the end of the day, am I going to feel like it was worth the loss? Am I going to feel like all the time I spend at this company, all the time I spend with this person at the end of the day, am I going to feel like it was worth the journey? And when we're thinking about dating and romantic partnerships, if we are getting an I don't know when we're thinking about dating someone, like if you say, should I date this person? And you hear, I don't know, that's a no that you're doubting. Or it's the universe saying you need to spend a little bit more time with this person before committing to them. Right? And I don't know is either give it is not is spend more time with them before giving a yes or no, or it's just give them a flat out no. And if we're only unsure about relationships when we're trying to move too quickly, right? If you really spent time with someone and really took the time to get to know them from a neutral perspective of, I'm just getting to know this person, I'm letting go of the expectations of, this is going to mean something to me, this is going to be my next partner, this is going to be someone I'm going to get to be physically intimate with, and I'm throwing that all in the trash, and I'm just going to really take the time to get to know this person and see if they're worth my time or not as a partner. And people that aren't worth your time as a partner might be better friends, or that might be better off as some, might be awesome with your time as a friend, or they might just not be worth your time at all. And we figure that out by getting to know them. And if we're hearing an I don't know or a no, that's our intuition saying this is a no. And if you need to explore that more, by all means. And maybe sometimes the unsureness or the I don't know is like coming up from a past heartbreak where where that really got us, and now we're having a hard time trusting this. And so you can still take your time to get to know this person, but get to know them without any expectation of dating them, right? Don't say, yes, I will date you, yes, I'll be your boyfriend and girlfriend, and then get to know them. Get to know them and then decide whether it's a yes or a no, which is like so opposite how most people date. Most people go, you're pretty close, or they go, you're pretty close, you have some really nice qualities, and yes, I'll be your partner, without ever really taking the time to get to know that person. And then the relationship, couple months, couple years later, ends, and they go, how did I not know sooner that this person wasn't right? And you knew at the beginning, you just didn't trust it. And if you are really unsure, you can just take the time to get to know the person, spend time with them, and say, universe, really show me who this person is. And it might take a month or 2 months to really see who someone is, but your heart is worth the journey. And we shouldn't be putting ourselves in relationships, or even where there's in relationships or careers where there's potential heartbreak that wasn't worth the experience we had at that company, or at or with that person. And you can always, when you're thinking about dating someone, you can always be sure if it was is worth, if this person will be in your life for a long time or a short time by your willingness to get to know them. And yes, sometimes people die, or sometimes people, maybe even sometimes people are seem like all the right, and then all of a sudden they change their mind one day. Sure, there might be exceptions to this. There might be exceptions to this rule, but 96% of the time, 98% of the time, you can be 100% sure whether this person is going to be in your life for a long time or a short time by your willingness to take the journey of getting to know them and not committing to dating someone before you're sure if it would long term make sense or not. And that, if we really want to take that path, that is a path that takes a month or a couple months. It's not something that's going to happen in a week, because you don't really know who someone is till you see them really pissed off, or you see them super sad, or you've had a month of texting with them and see how they respond when they get triggered. And it takes, just like a flower blooming, it takes time to see the center of the flower. Maybe this flower blooms really slowly, but it's with people, it takes time. And are we willing to take the time and be, in some ways, care for our heart the deepest, and be value and treat our heart as precious? And I'm not going to give my heart and my loving attention to something that's not going to be worth it. And I'm going to take the time to really explore people before ever committing to someone, that it's a yes in dating. And the irony or the duality of this teaching is oftentimes the people that we're actually meant to be with, the people that we're actually meant to date, are the people that when we meet them, we know the moment we meet them. And if we feel like we don't know, probably just another friend or another person you're meeting, and not someone that's actually going to have a lot of meaning in your life as a partner. Maybe they will have meaning in your life as a friend. And with career, sometimes there's going to be times when you just have to make a living, and or you're supporting a family, and so maybe it isn't the most fulfilling thing. But can we ask ourselves, can we be willing to explore, like, if we're kind of stuck, like we are have kids we have to take care of, and so it's more so I need this job so I can take care of my family, and not so much of like I need this job because it's fulfilling my heart up. And maybe what really fills up my heart up is making sure my kids have the opportunities, or having great opportunities in their life and having all they need to be successful. And so I stay in this job that isn't really that fulfilling. The question is, can I find greater hobbies in my free time that fill myself up with joy? Can I have a little time for myself where I get to do something that I love, that is going to at least allow me to express something I'm passionate to, that isn't related to my family, that isn't related to my job? And if we're maybe not tied down by a family or people we have to take care of, and we're single and we're in a job that isn't really that fulfilling, can we start to become more curious of what would be a job that would actually be fulfilling for me? And and can I work towards that? Because oftentimes the career you choose is like the one of the things that takes up most of your time up until you're 60 or up until whenever you retire of your life. And it should be something you enjoy. And if you don't enjoy it, it might be a good time to start to be curious of, what would I enjoy? What type of career could I work that would be worth my loving attention? That when it was over with, I could feel fulfilled and satisfied that I spent 20, 40, 60 years doing that. Or something that I love so much that I don't really feel a need that feel like I need to retire from it. And we don't want our career to be our whole life, right? And that's always something to think about is like, let's make sure that we have that if we really enjoy our career, but that takes up all our time and we don't really have any time for like connecting with people socially or any time outside of work, that might be something to look at. It might be something like, how can I bring greater balance to into my life? And can I make a little bit more time to connect with friends? Can I make a little bit more time to do something outside of work that's fun, whether that's playing a sport, doing a workout class, cooking myself nice meals, picking up some type of hobby that's not related to my job? Because a balanced life is a fulfilling life. And even if you're in a career that you love, you're going to be more fulfilled if you spend time away from that career than if all your focus and attention is going into that career. Kind of like eating a meal. If you're eating the same meal every day, that meal is, even if it's the most delicious meal ever, is gonna become rather boring. And you're gonna start to really crave change. And then when you eat a different meal, you're gonna go, oh my God, this is the best meal ever. It's the same with finding balance in our life. If we are spending all our time being a parent, all of their time being in focusing on some type of job, and we never take any time to on anything else in our life, it's almost like eating the same meal over and over again. And you're going to be more fulfilled in your career, more fulfilled in a parent if you have time away to yourself, even if it's just a little time to do something different that takes your mind off of being a parent or takes your mind off of work for just a little. Oh, and like I wanted to kind of talk about to transition a little into grief, loss, despair, kind of goes along with endings. And it's something I have talked about before, but I think I could deepen it a little this time. Uh, when we're thinking about grief, grief is when I'm feeling lost for something, grief is if I had known how little time I had with this person, with this experience, with the career I was working in, I would have loved and appreciated it a lot more. I would have given it a lot more of my effort. I would have been a better version of myself in the moments that were the most special. And and the feeling of I could have been better, I could have loved more, I could have appreciated this more while I was here is the feeling of grief. And whatever loss you're going through, you're going to feel grief. If it was something that was like a big experience in your life or you spent a lot of years doing, you will feel grief with when you go through a loss. You're never going to I would say you're not going to be able to love and appreciate something so much that you don't miss it when it leaves if it was a big part of your life. So we don't need to beat ourselves up for feeling grief or think I did something wrong by feeling grief because grief is part of the human experience. Gr- Your feeling of grief is actually a feeling of as I lose, like I talked about this in the last video, it brings up pain that I'm ready to face. Kind of like pulling a cord that pulls that pulls maybe like stuff up from the bottom of the lake. And the cord gets pulled and some pain comes up to the surface, and as I feel this pain I get transformed into the version of myself that's going to be more loving and appreciative and more in love with life in the future. And that is the gift of grief, and grief is one of the most incredible transformers into making you better versions of yourself. If you're going through a lot of loss, if you're going through a lot of grief, prepare for you to become an awesome version of yourself if you're willing to grow from that experience of grief. because the feeling and loving and caring yourself through grief is going to make you so much more caring and loving with everyone else you come in contact with in the future. But something that has really helped me with grief um, is and I've heard Matt Kahn teach this. He's been a big teacher in my life. Of he talked about like when you're thinking about missing someone, to talk to them like they're standing in front of you, even though they're not there. And if it's someone that died, the act of like talking to them will actually help strengthen the connection between you two so that you can actually start to hear them clearer and they can start to hear you clearer on the other side. What strengthens the cord between you two is actively connecting with them, whether that's just imagining them by your side or talking to them like they're with you because they are with you. And when you miss someone is really when their energy is with you. And if it's someone that's dead, it's them visiting you from the other side. And if it's someone that's still alive, it's either their thought patterns also thinking about you, or it's their energy, which exists in their body and also out of their body at the same time, which is why people talk about duality a lot in this experience. Like you are everything in the universe and you are nothing. You are everything that was created across the earth or across the universe throughout all of time, and you are also what existed before anything was ever created, right? Duality. And so the duality for people is people are in bodies and also existing out of bodies at the same time. And so people can visit you in spirit form even when they're living their life or doing something else that day because they exist within time and without time at the same time. And so when you're missing someone that's alive, it's either them thinking about you or their energy that exists out of time coming and visiting you and saying hey or giving you some advice or guidance that you might not even be conscious of. But to take what Matt has taught in a little deeper is when you feel like you're really missing someone, if grief is how much I love and appreciate, I wish I could have loved and appreciated this person more in front of me, or I wish I could have loved and appreciated this person more when they were in my life. And now that they're not in my life, I'm wishing that I had been more present or a better version of myself or been more loving to them when they were in my life. If that's what grief is, then what would it be like as when I feel incredible levels of grief or I feel like I'm really missing someone, to imagine that person right in front of me, or you don't even have to imagine them, but just talking to them and saying the words of love, appreciation, of gratitude that you wish you could say to them, that maybe you don't have the opportunity to say to them now that they're not in your life. Right? Like for me, like it would sound something like, thank you so much for like the time we had together. Like you deeply touched my heart and transformed my life, and I don't know who I would have become without you. And I absolutely am so grateful for the time we had together. I miss you a whole lot, and I just want you to know how much I love, care, adore you, and am grateful for the connection we had together. Right? Something like that. And when we do that practice, we'll find that sometimes if we feel like sadness in our heart that we can't really touch, that it feels like deep in our heart and we're aware of it, but it doesn't feel accessible, is that when we say our deepest levels of love and appreciation for another person, just journaling or at a wall just expressing it, it actually helps you touch your deepest sadness, and it actually helps clear grief a little quicker. And the other thing that really helped me with grief is like I play guitar. Maybe your artistic medium is painting or maybe it's poetry, but for me a lot of times it's singing and playing guitar is finding songs that helped touch on the grief I was feeling. And like with the loss of my in the last video I talked about how I lost my best friend a couple years ago and she kind of ghosted me and it was brutal. And there's like a Kid Leroy song that I found um that kind of touched on like how I felt at the time. And the like chorus part goes like, how did your heart mend so easy? Mine still bleeds. Bleed by Kid Leroy. and and the singing of that really helped me get through the heartbreak of losing this person. Oh, and can we find an outlet for expressing our grief? Because if we can sing about it or paint about it or write about it or even just talk it, even just talking about it to a wall, it will help clear the grief a little bit quicker and it will give you an easier experience through your grief and your heart will feel lighter and it will feel less overwhelming and unmanageable because it's almost if we're unwilling to express our feelings or unwilling to express our grief, it's almost like we're putting a cork in our heart. And all those feelings stay trapped in our body until we are willing to turn them into art because your inner artist is your inner healer. And when you're willing to take your deepest pain and turn it into art is when you're pulling that cork out of your heart and allowing some of those feelings to flow out that are ready to leave or returning some of those feelings back to the light that are ready to be returned back to the light. And they aren't going to all clear out instantaneously. And especially with something like grief, like if it's a big loss, it's going to take years. Not going to happen overnight. It will be years. Yeah. The bigger the loss, the longer the grief period. And you didn't do anything wrong to manifest it. It just to manifest a longer grief period, but it's just the universe really transforming you for how much love you gave that person. Mm. And so the more we love, sometimes the more we are going to feel grief. And if we can sing and express our grief, is when we're going to find the easiest way through it, but it will take a while. It will take a year, 2 years, longer than that, depending on how deep the loss was. And can we love and care and support ourselves through it rather than beating ourselves up for still missing someone, even though it's been over 2 years or over 3 years since you knew them? And one thing I would like to close on is like when we're thinking about relationships ending, and if we are feeling like we don't want to give someone a closure conversation or don't want to really tell them why the relationship ended, there's two sides of this. One side is if someone's hurled insults at you, if someone's been nasty or mean to you once they found out this relationship is ending, or they don't really feel like someone that can handle basic communication and tend to like always flip it on you or blame you or are anytime or when you addressed that this relationship was over, they just took it as a message to be as mean and nasty to you as possible. That's someone that does not deserve a closure conversation, and it would actually serve both of your hearts if you just kind of cut that person out. And and maybe there's exceptions to this. I'm never going to say it's 100% true, but most of the time it would be better if you it would be better if you didn't put yourself in an environment where your inner child could be harmed by the insults and and negativity and blame this person is throwing at you. And if they've done it once, or if they've done it a couple times, most of the time, if it's happened once, it's going to happen again. And if they, and it's something you're going to have to use your own discernment of, but usually someone that couldn't handle the initial loss. And it's different if they're like passion, if it's coming from a more place of like passion rather than actively trying to harm you, right? If they're actively trying to harm you with their words, not a person to have a closure conversation with. If there's someone that's just really a little angry and shocked, and you're having a heated conversation with it, but they're not really taking it as to be aggressive or mean, but they're maybe a little bit fiery responding, but it isn't actively being aimed at you. Maybe someone to have a closure conversation with, and when something's starting to get really fiery, it's usually a good sign that we need to take a break and revisit this in a couple of days. But the question is, are they actively trying to hurt me with how they're responding, or are they just feeling fiery and passionate, and we're getting in a little bit of a heated talk, but they're not actively trying to harm me with their words or with whatever, with their body. And so if someone's just got a little bit heated or a little caught off guard or triggered, but wasn't actively trying to harm you, usually a conversation you can revisit in a couple days. And nothing's across the board. You're going to have to trust your own tuition, use your own discernment. I'm not the all-knowing God. These are just suggestions. and if if we find that we are avoiding a closure conversation and the person as when we knew them was incredibly safe, loving and supportive and respectful when we knew them, and now we feel really afraid to have this closure conversation, and we are projecting our fear of the closure conversation onto this other person, which happens, and saying this person isn't a safe person. this person this person doesn't deserve a closure conversation. This person is should understand why I'm ending this friendship, why I'm ending this romantic partnership, and they don't deserve it, or they wouldn't handle it well. But when we knew them, they handled our friendship or our romantic partnership incredibly well. That could just be the fear I have about having a more vulnerable conversation with someone. I'm now taking my fear and avoidance of that conversation. I'm actually projecting it onto this person and forming new ideas about this person on why I need to be afraid of them. And something to be aware of. And usually, if someone's been a safe, loving, caring, supportive, respectful person, for the time we knew them, there's someone that deserves to have a closure conversation. There's someone that I should be fully honest and explain to them why this is ending and be clear about what exactly is the reason that this friendship, this romantic partnership is ending. Because when we're not clear with people is when people tend to blame themselves for things happening, or when people make up ideas on how everything is their fault, or everything or how if they had only if they had just been if they had just been better, or had that this wouldn't be ending. And most of the time it's never actually what it never a lot sometimes it never has to actually do with how you showed up, but it could just be time for the relationship to end, and having a conversation with someone about why it's ending can be really helpful in helping both your hearts heal, especially. And if they've been loving, caring, respectful, and supportive, they they deserve a closure conversation. And can we be aware, am I avoiding this conversation because I have a hard time being fully honest with people, and I like to just cut people out without giving them a reason, because then I don't have to face how sharp of a boundary I just set with this person, or how disappointed they might be that all of a sudden they thought everything was smooth sailing and now they're no longer in my life. And why am I avoiding this conversation? Because having a conversation about endings is healing. And if someone has only been loving and supportive and caring towards you, they most likely are going to handle the conversation well. And and if it's been a relationship that had some meaning in your life and their life, they probably deserve a conversation. So something to think about when we go through endings. And whenever we are ending something, it's just a redirection. Redirection for the other person and for you, for new friends, a new romantic relationship. And it might mean you spend some time alone, whether that be a couple years, a couple months. You might have a period where you don't have a lot of friends or don't have any friends. And it's a time when you get to connect with yourself more. It's a time when you get to really feel all your feelings about the ending that you experienced. It's why winter doesn't have a lot of growth in it that you can see, right? There's growth in the soil, there's fertilization of the soil, there's for new growth to grow, but it isn't a lot of growth that you get to see on the surface of winter. And it's the same when we go through big endings in our life. We go through a lot of our growth internally, but it takes a while for those new flowers to poke through the soil. And so you might have some time alone after a big friendship ends, big romantic partnership ends, that helps you really feel your feelings and fertilize the soil for your next friendships or partnerships to step into your life. And when a career ends, it's a redirection into a more fulfilling and satisfying career if we're willing to be open and curious and interested and explore what might be more fulfilling and satisfying to us. And it might take time to find that. It might take a year, it might take 2 years. We might have to work odd jobs. Are we willing to take the journey and not blame life for what it took away from us? And the more you can go, whatever's happening is divinely perfect. It's leading me to where I need to be. And that's where I need to be, where I'm meant to be. Or when this tree is fully grown, it might take a couple years for me to see the tree. It might take me a couple years to see where life was trying to guide me, but I'm willing to take the journey, and I'm willing to not blame myself or blame life for what it took away from me, because it's always redirecting you to something better or something you need more or something that will actually inspire greater growth within you than being comfortable where you were. So I hope that helps. Thank you for listening. It's an honor to serve you, and I'm grateful for your time and attention.